pre-trip inspection, we're going to check the front of the bus. We'll start at the top, check the clearance lights, make sure they're clean, working, proper collar, not broken or cracked. Red in the back, amber elsewhere. You want to check our student lights. We've got our yellow, our ambers, student warning lights. We've got our red, student stop lights. Make sure they're clean, clear, proper color. Next, we'll come down here and check our mirrors. Make sure they're mounted securely. Make sure they're clean, not cracked or broken. We'll check for leaks. So we'll look underneath the bus, check for puddles on the ground, look for oil transmission, coolant, and power steering leaks. That would indicate a leak. Okay, so we've got a passenger safety arm. Want to make sure it's securely mounted, no missing bolts, nuts, and make sure it's in good working order. All right. Next, we're going to open the hood. Okay, first thing I want to check is the alternator. Make sure it's mounted securely, no loose bolts or missing bolts. Make sure the wires are tight, not frayed. Next, we're going to check our water pump. Make sure it's not leaking, no missing bolts. Make sure it's not leaking. Make sure it's mounted securely. I want to check the frame from front to back. Make sure it's straight, not cracked, and no welds. Next, I want to check my coolant. Make sure it's in good condition, proper level, and the cap's on properly. Go to the driver's side. Okay, I want to check my fuse boxes. Make sure they're secured. Make sure the latches work properly. Next, I want to check my oil. I want to check the level of it. Make sure the condition looks good and it's full. Make sure there's no leaks. Next, I want to check the air compressor. It's right down there. It is gear driven. Make sure it's securely mounted and that there's no leaks from the airlines. Next, I'll come out here and check my belts and hoses. The belts, we'll make sure they're not cracked, worn, or frayed. A belt deflection should be between 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. I'll check my hoses. Make sure they're not cracked, leaking. Make sure they're on tight. Next, check my power steering. Make sure the level's full. There's no leaks from the hoses or the tank. I'll go down here to my gearbox. Make sure it's securely mounted. No missing bolts. Not damaged. It's not leaking from the box or the hoses. Next, I want to check my linkage. Make sure it's not loose, worn, or cracked. My linkage. And the linkage includes the pitman arm, my drag link, my tie rod, my knuckles. Make sure there's no missing bolts, nuts, cotter pins on that. Next, I want to check my shock absorber. Make sure it's securely mounted, top and bottom. No missing bolts. Make sure it's not leaking. Next, I want to check my springs. Make sure they're attached to the mounts properly, front and back. Make sure they're not broken, cracked, or shifted. Next, I want to check my spring mounts and my middle U-bolts. Make sure there's no cracks, not damaged, or missing nuts or bolts. Okay, work my way out here. I want to check my hoses, my air hoses. Make sure they're not cracked, not leaking, not damaged. Okay, I want to check my brake chamber. Make sure it's securely mounted. No dents or air leaks. I want to check my slack adjusters and push rods. No broken or missing parts, bolts, or pins. With the brakes released, the push rod should have no more than 1 inch of travel when pulled by hand. Next, I want to check my drums. Make sure there's not cracked, no damage, or missing bolts. No oil from the wheel seal. I want to check my linings. Make sure they're not cracked, damaged, or missing bolts. And make sure they're not worn dangerously thin. We'll come out here to the front wheel. I want to check my hub oil seal. I want to check the inner and the outer. Make sure there's no leaks or missing bolts or loose bolts. I want to check my lug nuts. Make sure none are missing, that they're all tight, no rust trails or shiny threads indicating looseness. Next, I want to check my rim. Make sure it's not cracked, damaged, bent, or welded on. The valve stem and cap. Make sure it's in good condition. Make sure the cap is secured, it's not leaking. Tires. We'll make sure they're properly inflated. And I will do that with a tire gauge. Make sure they're in good condition, no cuts, damage. You are not allowed to have retreads on the front. Make sure we have even tread wear. And the minimum depth in the front is 4/32 of tread. So down on this driver's side, I'm going to check our mirror here. Make sure it's securely attached, clean, not cracked, broken. We want to check our lights on the side. Again, we have red in the back, ambers elsewhere. We'll check our reflective tape on the bus, make sure it is good working order, good condition, clean. We'll check our strobe light on top, make sure we have it on there. We'll check our stop arm, make sure it's clean, mounted securely, good working order. Our stop arm. Go under the bus, I want to check my exhaust. I'll check the muffler and all the piping, no leaks, holes, or damage. I will check the drive shaft, make sure it's not bent. Make sure there's nothing, no foreign objects wrapped around the drive shaft. Make sure my couplings are secure. Next, we'll go back to the rear suspension. We want to check our torque rod and control arm assembly. Make sure it's securely mounted, not cracked or damaged. We'll check our airbags, make sure they're securely mounted top and bottom, not damaged or leaking. We'll check our springs. Make sure our springs are attached to the mount securely, not cracked, broken, shifted, or missing. Check our spring mounts, front, middle U-bolts, and back. Make sure they're securely mounted to the frame, no cracks, damage, missing nuts or bolts on that. Next, I want to check the air lines. Feed into my brake tank. Check my air lines, make sure they're securely attached, not damaged, cracked, or leaking. Check my brake chamber, securely mounted, no dents or leaks. I'll check my slack adjuster and push rod, no broken or missing parts, bolts, or pins. With the brakes released, push rod should have no more than 1 inch of travel when pulled by hand. I'll check my drums, make sure not cracked, damaged, or missing bolts, no oil from the wheel seal. I'll check my linings, no cracks, damage, or missing bolts. Make sure it's not worn dangerously thin. We'll check our hub oil seal, inner and outer again. No leaks, missing bolts, or loose bolts. That's right down here. We'll check our lug nuts, none missing, all tight, no rust trails or shiny threads indicating looseness. We'll check our rim, not cracked, damaged, bent, or welded. Check our valve stem again, good condition, make sure the cap's secure. We'll check, make sure the tire is inflated properly. Do that with a tire gauge. We'll check, make sure there's no cuts, no damage to the outside of the tire. Make sure we have even tread wear. You are allowed to have retreads on the rears and the minimum tread depth of 2/32. There's a space in between tires. Make sure there's no debris in between the tires and that the tires are not touching. Open the back of the bus. We want to check all of our lights and reflectors back here. We have our student ambers, student warning ambers, our student reds, student stop reds on there. We want to check our tail lights. Check our tail lights, our turn signals, and hazard lights. We want to check our backup lights. Our tail lights also include these red lights here. Okay, our brake lights, red reflectors on the back, and ambers everywhere elsewhere. Okay, same with the running lights, reds on the back, ambers elsewhere. We want to check our exhaust pipe, make sure it's extended just beyond the bumper, not leaking, not loose, no holes. We'll check our door, make sure our door is in good working order, make sure it opens, closes properly from the outside. We want to check our seal around the door, make sure it's a good tight seal, it's not damaged. We want to check our hinges, make sure they're not rusted, no missing bolts or screws from those. We'll make sure the door closes properly. Okay, to this side. We want to check our fuel tank, make sure it's mounted securely, no damage, no leaks. Next, we want to check our fuel door, make sure it works properly. Check our fuel cap, make sure it has a good rubber seal on it and that it is on tight. We'll make sure the door closes properly. Everything else is the same until we get to the driver's door, the entry door. Okay, we want to check our entry door and our glass, make sure our glass is not broken, make sure it's not dirty. We want to make sure we have good rubber seal around our entry door, make sure the door works properly. The steps, we want to make sure the steps are clear of debris, no loose tread, screws, Make sure the handles are fastened securely. Make sure the step light works clean and is not broken. Okay, let me close this hood. We'll do the rest of it. Okay. Inside the bus, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the key to the run position. Okay. I'm going to check the aisleway, make sure it's free of debris or obstructions. Make sure the metal strips are fastened securely to the ground, no missing screws or bolts. I want to check the seats. I want to check the backs and the cushions. Make sure there's no missing bolts or screws or nuts. Make sure they're mounted securely to the frame. I want to make sure the frame is mounted securely to the floor. No missing bolts or nuts. Emergency exits. There's 4 exits. I'll demonstrate on one. With the handle lifted, the buzzer should sound. Make sure the emergency exit opens and closes properly. Make sure the buzzer goes back off. We've got 2 roof hatches. To activate those, we'll put to the exit position, push up, and this will pop out. My mechanic and boss told me not to pop it out because they're very hard to get back in, but that is how you do that. I want to check my rear door. I want to make sure the buzzer sounds when open from the inside. Make sure it closes properly. Okay. Next, I got my inspection items. I have spare fuses right in here in this compartment. I need a 10 BC fire extinguisher, minimum 10 BC fire extinguisher, fully charged, mounted securely. I got my first aid kit, my bodily fluid kit, my 3 red reflective triangles in here. Next, I want to make sure my seat belt works properly. Make sure it's not frayed or torn. Make sure it's attached securely at the top and bottom, and that the latch works properly. Next, I'm going to do a safe start. I'm going to have the parking brake set, my foot on the brake, and I'm going to start the bus in neutral. Foot on the brake, parking brake set in neutral. I'll start the bus. Check the ABS light. Just went off. Make sure it works properly. Okay, lights. I'll check all my dome lights. Make sure they all work properly. My student lights. You mind shutting that door, Robbie, for me? Get the warmer on there. Thank you. My student lights. I'll check my ambers. We do not have a light indicator, but this is where it would be. Well, light indicator is right here. It comes on. Open the door. My stop arm illuminates. My front student safety arm comes out. My red light indicator is on here. Okay. I'll check all my heaters. Heaters, passenger heaters, and fans. They're all right here. And my defroster. Check the defroster works properly. Okay. Windshield. I'll make sure it's clean and clear, not cracked, no obstructions. That includes the door, windows in front, side window here. Make sure there's no obstructions. Wipers and washer. Check, make sure my wipers work and that my washer works. Okay. I'll make sure the horn works. Lighting indicators. I'll have to turn my headlights on. I want to check my bright lights indicator. It works. I'll check my turn signals. My left turn signal, right turn signal indicator, my 4-way flasher indicators. They all work. Oil pressure. I want to make sure it rises in a few seconds to about 40 psi. The warning light goes out. My coolant temp should rise between 170 and 210 degrees. My volts should be between 12 and 14 volts. The warning light should be off. My air gauge, make sure the pressure rises to the governor cutoff, which is between 120 and 140 psi. Parking brake. I want to check my parking brake. So this is where I will put the bus in gear, leave my parking brake on, release the brake, give it a little bit of gas. If it does not move, the parking brake works. Service brake. Now I'm going to put my foot on the brake, release the parking brake, put the bus in gear, I'm let it roll forward about 5 miles an hour. My hands off the steering wheel, apply my brakes, make sure the wheel does not go to one side or the other. Sorry.
Alright.
Okay. Put it back in neutral. Apply the parking brake. Okay. I'm going to shut the bus off. At this point, I'll go back and push the child safety button. So go on for the rest of the test. Okay, for air brake test, 3-point air brake test. I want to fan the brakes down to about 90 psi. I want to turn the key back on first. Fan it down about 90 psi. Start up the bus. I'm watching so the governor cuts off at about 120, between 120 and 140 psi. So I'm looking for the governor to cut off. I'll tell you when it happens. Right now, it just happened. So, I'll shut the bus off, and turn the key back on, and release my brakes. Now I'm going to push down the foot pedal. I'm going to hold it for 1 minute. Make sure I did not lose more than 3 pounds of pressure on my air gauge in 1 minute's time. I'm going to fan my brakes off to approximately 60 psi. I should have a warning light and buzzer that comes on. There it is, light and buzzer on. I'm going to keep fanning the brakes down to, did I say 40 before? Did I say 60?
Just now.
60.
Okay, I said 60 before?
Yeah.
Okay,
I said 60.
so I'm going to put the brakes down to 40 psi now. And I'm going to look and listen for the air valve to pop out, my brakes to pop out. Right there it did. That is how you do a pre-trip.